Okay, and we're back. Welcome back to Corruption Incorporated. I'm your host, Ionicles. We're talking today about the modern monster. And now I want to, this is a longer talk, so I've broken it into 3 parts. Now I want to get down to some brass tacks here and start to direct a microscope at some things that are happening and help us update our understanding of what success is. Because we have people now who have so much money that they could divest themselves of 90% of their wealth and they would still, unless they're trying to buy an island, really never be able to spend it all. They have so much more than they need. And we are still calling these people successes. I'm here to say they're not successes, they're monsters. And I'm going to call out a few people. I'm going to call out 3 people. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Mitch McConnell. I'm using these people as examples because they are people who have accrued extreme wealth. I mean, even in terms of human history, the amount of wealth that these people have is absurd. Even McConnell, who has vastly less than the other 2 I named. So I'll start with McConnell. I just recently in the news, I've started to get the impression that perhaps he's understanding that he kind of let the beast off the chains. In my opinion, without him, we would not be in this mess we're in right now. We would have a different leader. In my opinion, Mitch McConnell is the worst politician this country has ever produced. He's not the worst leader, even though he loved to be known as Leader McConnell when he was the leader of the majority of the Senate. But several years ago, when I was working on one of these legal battles, I came across a study done by the University of Kentucky. And if memory serves, it was circa 2008. And they were looking at the economy of the state of Kentucky, which is one of the poorest states in our country, and which is a very, very troubled place these days. Troubled place. Be careful if you're driving through there with out-of-state plates, because you might get harassed by state troopers in Kentucky. I drove approximately 33,000 miles in 5 months last year while fighting in this big case against Coldwell Banker and Compass Realty that I'm going to be talking more and more about. We're waiting for a ruling from the judge on a motion to dismiss that both of these companies have filed. They're standing by their corrupt real estate agents, amazingly. We'll talk about that more. I don't want to get derailed here to so many tangents and get lost talking about this. Like I said earlier, I can do this all day, and I'm not reading from a script. But the study from the University of Kentucky was looking at the economy of Kentucky over the course of the 30 some odd years that McConnell has been a senator. And what it had determined is that the economy of Kentucky had stagnated. It was basically not growing. But at the same time, Mitch McConnell became fabulously wealthy. If I remember correctly, the study was, no one really knows exactly how much he's worth, but the study was seeming to conclude that he is probably worth somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20 million. And this man has now published a memoir titled The Long Game. And apparently seems to celebrate himself being the longest sitting senator in United States history. These are other things that have come to my attention. That's not something, in my opinion, that one should be celebrating. That's not a success. That's a failure. It's a failure of the state of Kentucky to keep running to this person to lead them in Congress when he has been enriching himself. There's a university in that state that has done a study on it. You can go look it up. It's free. It's on the internet. I found it on the internet. The long game. No one in their right mind would want someone else playing their life like a game. And I have been to this state. I have driven through kudzu-encrusted or overgrown valleys, just symbolically eaten alive with this predatory, invasive species from Asia, from many years ago, brought over here. And it's just driving through. It's very pretty. It's all green, but it's just getting eaten by these vines that are just killing trees and stuff. And I'm driving down the road, and I'm looking in the yards of some businesses, and I'm seeing signs that say, big signs, and like that rubbery laminated sign. It's like like super, it's like almost the same, like fabric containing like laminate, like duct tape. It has like a fabric inside, and it's like this thing that can weather storms. It's a very durable sign. And what is it? It's a big white sign with big black block letters. And what does it say? Narcan. Like, here's where you come if you're ODing on fentanyl. We got the stuff that can save you. It's mind-blowing. These people are very poor, and they're very poorly educated. Kentucky is one of the lowest gross domestic products in this country, and it has one of the worst education systems. These are also publicly available information. I'm not going to say which out of 50 because I don't know, but it's among the lowest. It's among the most poorly educated populations in our country, states, and it's among the poorest. And they keep electing this guy for over 30 years. Almost as long as I've been alive. This guy has been leading that state into the ground. That's not a success. That's a monster. He's a monster. I've also read commentary by people who know the man say he doesn't really have a moral compass. People were calling him like again with Star Wars, like Darth McConnell. Calling him like a dark lord of the Sith, and I remember reading it, and he would there's I remember seeing a picture of him like smiling, he enjoyed it. And people called him Cocaine Mitch and stuff, and it's like falling on deaf ears, that poor man. But I think he's intelligent enough. My opinion is he's intelligent enough that he might understand now that he's really let some kind of a beast off the chains, and that the history books may not be kind to him. Doesn't seem to be in the public eye very much right now. I feel really bad for him. He doesn't understand. Again, you are an example for the future of a failure in our country. Politics was never meant to be a career. Perhaps you don't know, but People who are reelected one time reelected to Congress, they are given a lifetime salary. That in and of itself, that per se, is not very American. That's something that we should do away with. Lifetime salary. It's not supposed to be a career. That was not the intention, as I understand it. The intention was that anyone should be able to say, I think I can help. I'd like to lead. They put in their 4 years, or I believe it's 6 years for a senator, and then they're done. And maybe they're reelected once, but then they're done. They don't stay for decade after decade after decade, and they're quietly getting rich while the people that they're purporting to lead and represent are not doing better. Mitch McConnell is a monster. Oh, well, the Democrats, well, it's all their fault. Well, we're not going to have it. Just think about how out of touch someone like him must be with the conditions of the lives of the people around him and in that state. Just think about how willful the ignorance must be, just like these lawyers I'm dealing with, freaking out that I'm talking about them on here and on LinkedIn. Because they're it's like I said this to them in writing recently. It's like an industry standard blissful unawareness. They like to be going around and buying all this stuff and tucking all this money away, and I'm doing so well, I'm success, look at me, look at how good I'm doing, look at all this money that I'm getting, and not thinking about the lives of those on which they're trampling, representing companies like Coinbase. I do want to say one thing. I didn't mean to. I really don't have any ill will towards them, but I've done a little more a second look at this law firm. They have all their pictures on there, so these people know what I look like. I know what they look like, and I mentioned that this attorney Maria Jones that had sent me this absurd cease and desist letter that I lit on fire and ate popcorn while it burned in a couple of episodes ago, or a few videos ago. I guess this is like one big 3-part episode right now. But on the website it says she's a partner. And she was saying, I'm in charge of the case. And I said, don't you dare ever lie to me again. Well, she may very well be in charge of the case, but that didn't stop her colleague, Ms. Melton, from being the one reaching out to me in the beginning saying, I'm representing Coinbase in this matter. So I naturally misunderstood that. And under Ms. Melton's picture on bkbfirm.com is their website, bowmankroupbossy.com. It's actually bkbfirm.com. If you want to go check it out, be my guest. But Ms. Allison Melton, it says underneath her name, counsel. So I have no idea, again, what the hierarchy here is. Ms. Jones may actually be the head honcho. And if I misunderstood that, I apologize. I wrote her a special personal email and said, don't you ever waste my time like that again, saying you're in charge. You're not corresponding with the American Arbitration Association. You're very obviously not in charge. You've been tasked with dealing with me. But it might be the other way around. She might be in charge, and she's the big important attorney and doesn't really, and is the one seemingly freaking out that now other people in the firm are getting emails from me and stuff like that. I'm just trying to raise awareness and trying to reach them and reason with them. I'm not trying to harass them. I don't do that. And I don't make threats unless it's just for legal action. And it's only as a last resort. I can't reason with them. Their client is going to lose more than it would have taken to settle this. They probably already have. So again, I said this before, what's keeping this from being in the past? Pride and greed, in my opinion. It's this idea that, who do you think you are? we're lawyers. We went to school for this. Like, this is the feeling that one gets facing people like this. There's so much condescension, so much disrespect. I read that letter and it referenced California Penal Code Section 524. Well, I went and looked at that. And what I'm doing under the law of California does not qualify as extortion or defamation. It doesn't. I'm not threatening them with violence. I'm not saying pay me or else. I wouldn't do that. I don't even care if they settle it anymore. I've said from the beginning I may lose on the statute of limitations. But what happened the first time around with Coinbase was inappropriate. That should not have lost that because of one word. I should have been allowed to amend. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. Today we're talking about the modern monster. So I want to talk now about the big dogs, Musk and Bezos, for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to end this. At one point I taught mathematics, and I have had very few trophies as a young person, but I did at one point, was on a mathematics competition team, and we did win. It was like third place or something, but it was one of the only trophies I was ever given. I'm quick with numbers, and I want to try to give you a perspective on how insane the wealth of Bezos and Musk is, and how I'm saying they're not successes, they're monsters, and they've lost their minds a long time ago. I mean, we're still getting, pop-ups on the phone, Washington Post, and NCAA, or this and that, Washington Post reporting on college basketball. Good job, Bezos. It still says democracy dies in darkness. The audacity of this man to do what he's done and not allow opinion pieces to be published now and from both sides of the aisle, which is more, I'm summarizing, but there's this big outcry over, they wouldn't take a position on the last election and stuff like that. I mean, if you've been following the news, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of upset about what's going on with the Washington Post since he bought it. Democracy dies in darkness. I'm facing these attorneys, they prefer to be in darkness. And it's like, like, it's insane. You're acting like orcs, like in Lord of the Rings, like things that envelop themselves in shadow. You prefer not to be seen. Even Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Now Congress is like, well, we need some transparency here. Like, we need to know what's going on. You're taking a chainsaw to our government's infrastructure, and we may not even know the extent of the damage that's being done right now for a generation or more. It's absolutely insane. I mean, I've already been talking to people like, oh, I'm not banking on Social Security being there. And I'm like, well, good. That means you're not living under a rock then, because we've been paying into this our entire lives in the workforce in this country, and it may not have 1 cent left for us. So we got crazy, greedy monsters around. Think that, oh, I'm bigger than you. I have all this money. I can do what I want. It's monstrous. Might does not equal right in this country, and if it does, this country is dead. This country is falling into darkness. I want to talk to you about 200 billion as a number in conclusion here. As Musk and Bezos each have, we understand, over 200 billion in net worth. I know that means that doesn't mean that's what they have in like liquid available funds, but in terms of assets, 200 billion is such an incredible number. It's unfathomable to the human mind. I'm going to try to give you a mathematical perspective on this and show you how monstrous it is. And that these men going around and all these silly corporate people coming up to me. Oh, yes, Mr. Bezos. Oh, yes, Mr. Musk. Oh, yes, of course, sir. Whatever you want, sir. And would you like some whatever with that? Whatever you want? Whatever we can do for you? Can we rub your feet while we're at it? I mean, somehow they've just lost their minds along the way. In my opinion, they've lost their minds. They don't understand. They're so insulated from what's happening to the average person's life. And they won't talk to someone like me. I can't talk to people like this. They're not interested. Like I said, the leaders of these companies I'm fighting, they do not want to talk to me. They will not talk to me on the phone. Even though we're countrymen. And these lawyers, they don't want to talk. They don't like it when truth is spoken to them about what's happening. They don't like it. They like to continue thinking that they're doing great. They're doing great. They're a success. Even if they're trampling on the lives of others, even if they're accepting pay that's been stolen from people like me or like you. It would take you over 11 days to count to 1 million. It takes about 11 and a half days for 1 million seconds to pass. If you went 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. 11 and a half days. Just take a second and let that sink in. That's without sleeping. That's without taking a break to go to the bathroom or eat something. 11 and a half days. So 1,000 times longer than that ends up being over 31 years to count 1 billion seconds. So if you're watching this and you're under the age of 31, or if you're, it's like 31 point something. But if you're not pushing 32, you have not even lived 1 billion seconds yet. That's a fact. You hit 1 billion seconds between your 31st and 32nd birthday. Actually, hold on. Let me be clear. Technically, when you hit 31, you're starting your 32nd year. So actually, it's between your 30th and 31st birthday. So if you're not pushing 31, because from age born to age 1 is your first year. So we hit 1 billion seconds of life between our 30th and 31st birthday. If you're not pushing 31, going to be 31 years old soon, you have not lived 1 billion seconds yet. That's how big of a number that is. That's incredible. But putting it in terms of your life experience is an easier way for me to ground this for you and for all of us in a way that we can wrap our minds around it. That's a huge amount of seconds that have passed in 30 plus years. So think about that. Musk and Bezos have over 200 times that much money. Do you know what that means? Do the math. What's 30 times 200? 6,000. That means that if you had started counting $1 per second, basically at the beginning of recorded history until now, you still wouldn't have counted all their money. Put that in your intellectual pipe and smoke it today. If you had started counting Elon Musk's money 6,000 years ago, $1 per second, you still wouldn't have counted it all today. In terms of old sacred texts that rather ridiculously hold that the world is 6,000 years old, and very curiously and serendipitously on that page that I read you from Moby Dick, let's go back for a second. this is actually referenced in two paragraphs earlier. The paragraph before what I read was one sentence, but this paragraph before that, he says, "Yet lies antique Adam who died 60 round centuries ago." This is still common thought in the mid 1800s, mid 19th century. But so in terms of scripture, if you started counting Elon Musk's money at the dawn of time, you still wouldn't have counted it all by now if you did $1 per second. And that's not even, thinking about interest or anything. How much they make per year just in interest. But will they help people like you? No. No, they give to charities and stuff, helps them get to sleep at night, surely, but that's not a success. That's a monster. It's a monster. And until we start to realize that, bless their hearts, I have no ill will towards these people, I really don't. But until we start to realize that, Mr. Bezos, it's monstrous of you to have that much money. Being on the list of the 100 richest people in this world should not be something that one celebrates. If I was ever on there, I would give away immediately enough to not be on there. I don't think that's something that I would ever want. I would never want to be known like that. Ever. I would never want to be known like that. But think this is how upside down things are now. That's not a success. It's a monster. I've caught Amazon in an outright act of fraud. I have. I can prove it. I have video. I have pictures. I threatened to take action against them. You know what they did? They sent me a fax number in Washington State. It's basically like good luck. You want to try to go after Amazon, they will send you a fax number. So might as well just say, yeah, go ahead and send it over on the back of a dinosaur. I've talked to people who worked for Amazon. I worked for Amazon, or tried to, for one day. It was an absolute nightmare. They gave me an impossible task. They had me, I had to go be somewhere north of Los Angeles, and even driving almost recklessly fast, like I don't even think I was like not supposed to be in the express lane. I was in the express lane doing like 90 miles an hour. I'm not proud of that, but I was trying very hard. My life was being torn apart by Uber and companies like that, and it was impossible. It was like 15 or 20 miles, and I had like 13 minutes to get there, something, if memory serves. And I was on the phone like saying, how am I supposed to do this? And the people that were taking the phone call, oh, well, just go, and like, when you get there, like, you won't be able to sign in, but just call us back. And then I get there and I call, and they're like, oh yeah, well, sorry, you didn't make it in. Someone else on the phone, you didn't make it in time, so you're not going to be able to take this job. The guy I knew had worked for them. He had like a flat tire or something. It ran over like a bolt or a screw on their property, and he told me that they wouldn't do anything. That they just left him in the lurch. You hear articles in the news coming out about, from time to time, about the mistreatment of their workers, and yet these people are going around telling themselves their success. It's monstrous. So if you hear anyone out there talking about Mr. Bezos, or Mr. Musk, or Mr. McConnell, and celebrating them, I challenge you to stand just a little bit there. Just put your foot down. Speak your mind. You know what? Hey, I heard an idea recently that's not success, and here's why. It's monstrous. There's so many people suffering and so many people having a hard time. And they could share some of that. They could make things better and take a little less for themselves. Look, they got so much more than they need. But they don't understand. They don't understand. They don't understand how hard it is. They've lost touch with what's going on. 6,000 years you could count, and you'd never count all their money. 6,000 years, fewer seconds have passed than dollars that they have or are worth. You could rightly say this is the whimper at the end of the world, but only the end of the world as we know it. Again, unfailing optimism is a superpower. You can quote me on that. There's also an old idea from an old story called The Day the Earth Stood Still, that it's only when things get really, really bad that we change. So what if in 20 or 30 years we're all sitting around and the young cats are coming up to us and asking us, well, what was it like when that guy was running things? What was it like when that guy was around? What was it like when there were monsters like that around? Oh boy, how much time you got? Sit down, I'll tell you a story. What if this is the new 1960s or 70s? What if, this is the new time that people wish they'd lived through? Why not? But change begins with you. It begins with us all realizing it's not the Democrats, it's not the Republicans, it's all of us. We're all responsible for this. If anyone out there thinks that they're gonna, sit back and hide in the shadows like these attorneys and take money that's been stolen and that they're not going to be held accountable, well, I got news for you, that the day of that being okay is over. If it wasn't over before I was here saying it's over now, because I'm here saying either you stand with us or you stand against me, because I'm not going to stop now. I don't have very much attachment to this life anymore. We can do better. I have a feeling this is much longer than I wanted it to be, so I'm going to end it now. Oh yeah, it's over 30. Okay. Well, I had a lot to say about this. I hope that you found this interesting and instructive. If you've paid attention to the whole thing, I'm going to do timestamps for this, and hopefully it'll be some extra work for me to have to rewatch this and break it into chapters, but I'll do it. But these things need to be said. I think it's really important that people begin to understand that that is not success. So I'll end with this. What is success? Success, to me, is being put through a very, very difficult ordeal, being faced with extreme odds or horror of some kind, and greeting it with love and compassion. Being able to look at people like this and see the wood for the trees and see that they don't understand. If we keep seeing them as successful, we are headed in a dark direction. It is appropriate for us to pity Elon Musk, to pity Jeff Bezos, to pity Mitch McConnell, to pity Donald J. Trump, because they do not understand. They're not very good students of history. This is not going to get better if their ideas of success, their ideas that I have more, I can do what I want, keep getting promoted here in this world. They should not be able to do whatever they want. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. And if we are living in a world where one thinks that he is, we are not living in the United States of America anymore. Peace be with all of you. May you all experience real happiness, real harmony, real peace. Remember to breathe and look for the joy, the little things, the smile, the unexpected act of kindness, someone holding the door for you. Look for the opportunity to be kind. And if you can, share this, hit subscribe. It will help. Even if it's this is another idea from modern culture, from a story called Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. It's a very beautiful story and one of the best novel-to-film adaptations I've ever seen. The idea is, even if that hitting subscribe, which I understand just means you'd be notified when I post again, or even if that share seems like just one little drop in an ocean. What is an ocean but a multitude of drops? I think you will feel a little bit better about things if you hear what I'm saying and you help this grow. Fan this flame here. And I'll see you again very soon. I'm happy that I had this much time tonight to devote to this. Happy March 19th. And we'll see you again very soon. Blessings to you and yours. 1,000 times good night.